When we arrived at the airport, Rick was always there. He was so patient and so kind, and he was such a servant. He would never let us take our own luggage. He always insisted on carrying it. And I do remember his coffee. I love coffee.
Yes.
Every morning he would have his coffee waiting for us. And sometimes we wouldn't get home until very late at night, 1, 2 o'clock in the morning. And Rick would make us toast for our bedtime snack. Rick was humble, but he was a strong man. And Rick did not carry his authority like some men that have authority. It was very subtle. It was very non-imposing. And he listened to people. He not only listened to the Holy Spirit, he listened to people. He sought out their ideas. In a way, Rick reminded me of Joshua. He was a warrior. Rick was a warrior. He did spiritual warfare, intercessory prayer, and all kinds of prayer. And he labored spiritually for his people and his churches and his ministry.
And his family too, Ron.
And his family, yes. But one thing I always remember about Rick, whenever he would get excited or anticipate something great, he would go like this. He would say, "Okay, Ron, let's go."
And I have to tell you that Ron got so into that. 2 weeks ago at church, he did the same thing. And I said, "Oh, you're thinking about Rick, are you?"
We would be in a meeting, and the worship would be great, and you could feel the presence of the Lord. Rick would be going like this. This is good. This is good. So Rick was a lot like Joshua. He was a warrior, and Rick was a servant. He first of all served God with his whole heart and all of his emotional and physical possessions. He served God willingly, truly, and faithfully. Rick was a servant of the people. He always placed others' needs before his. I remember sometimes we were down there and they were short on their commitment, on their promises for that month. And so they were hurting. But somebody in a church would need a little help, and Rick, out of his need, would give to them. What a blessing, what a blessing. I remember there were a number of times. I remember one time especially. There was a young man that he wanted to send to a Bible seminary, to Bible school in Brazil. And Rich reached in his pocket, pulled out $300 and gave it to him so he could go to Bible school. He did that often. He sacrificed himself for his people. He never expected anything in return. And that's right. Many times we'd be going to a meeting or coming from a meeting, and he would say, "I need to make a little detour." And he would detour to somebody's house and bring them a blessing. I loved it when traveling with Rick, because many times he would go out of his way to show us a harbor or a scenic view from a mountaintop or looking down on a small town. Yeah, Rick was an excellent servant. Rick also was a builder. He built churches, both spiritually and physically. He oversaw the building, the physical building of a number of churches. And he always engaged the people so that the people were involved and they felt ownership. Mm-hmm. And he was able to encourage the people to build. He was able to give to people a vision for their particular church and also for their life.
Yes.
You know, Rick was really good at seeing God's giftings and treasures in other people. I learned a lot from Rick about this. I would look at somebody and they look pretty common, ordinary. Rick would look at them and he would say, there is a future pastor. There is a future leader. And he would encourage them and speak to them. And he would shepherd them. And within a few years, they would become a leader in the church or a pastor.